So I survived. If you're reading the title of this video, you will know that my little boy arrived finally and I gave birth. So I wanted to do, I was going to say a quick video, but it probably isn't very quick because my labour wasn't very quick. A video on my birth and delivery stories. I watched loads of these before he was born and I found them really useful. So TMI warning, it's probably going to be a little bit of TMI in this video, so if you're squeamish, maybe don't watch it. And I hope that I can introduce you to baby Finn at the end of the video. He's asleep at the moment, so hopefully he'll wake up and come and say hi, so stay tuned for that. So it all started a week ago today, which is Monday. It was Monday the 5th of February 2018. So I woke up in the morning. I was 40 weeks and 5 days that day. 4 days? 40 weeks and 4 days. So I was overdue. I had been for a sweep, 2 sweeps actually. One the week before and one the day before. And I actually suspect that the one the day before was the thing that broke my waters, but it actually was my back waters that went, it wasn't my front waters, so it was like a slow trickle. So I woke up about 5:30 in the morning and went to the toilet and noticed that my underwear was wet, so I thought, oh, maybe. But it was a really slow trickle. It wasn't like a big Hollywood gush of water that everyone talks about, so I just kind of like thought I'd monitor it throughout the day. I tried to do what they asked you to do, which is to put a pad on, then lie down for 30 minutes and then stand up and see if there's like a pool of water, and there was. So I thought, okay, I'll monitor this. And then later on that morning I started to get little twinges, but they were kind of like Braxton's, and I've been having Braxton's all the way through, so didn't really feel like anything of it. Paul was like debating whether to go to work or not, and I said, yeah, go. Because obviously if it was the real thing, then we want as much time as possible with the baby at the end. So he went off to work, begrudgingly, and his mum and auntie actually came down to see me, and we went out for lunch. And as we were having lunch, I noticed that they were getting a little bit more intense, so I started to time them, and contractions were about every 6 minutes, every 5-6 minutes, for about a minute to a minute and a half, but they weren't, I could talk through them, like it was fine. So I don't want to get my hopes up, but what I had read and heard was that if your waters break, you have to kind of go in within 48 hours, because obviously the chances of infection are raised. So I called the hospital about 5:30 at night and said, I think my waters have gone. I'm in labour, I think, but I don't think that I need to come in from a pain perspective yet. I'd just like to see if my waters are broken in case I've got a higher chance of infection. So they told me to come in, and she checked my waters, and I had my waters had broken basically. So she gave me another sweep and said, go home, see how things progress, and if you don't go into labour naturally, we will induce you at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. So I was like, oh, okay. As most of you know, I've talked about it before in my vlogs, I didn't want an induction. It was the last thing that I wanted. I wanted a water birth. I wanted it to be as natural as possible. I wanted just gas and air. I didn't want any drugs. Standard first time baby story with the birth plan. I'd bought aromatherapy oils and massage oils and, you know, hypnobirthing techniques and all of that sort of stuff. So I really wanted as natural as possible. And what that meant was that because my waters had actually broken already, I couldn't use the pill from that point on. So that was a bit of a mental adjustment to be like, okay, this probably isn't going to be the birth that we think it's going to be. Which was a little bit tricky, but I remained fairly adamant all the way through that I wanted to keep an open mind about what kind of birth I was going to have and go with the flow. So we tried to keep calm. As soon as she did the sweep in the hospital, which was about 8 o'clock at night, things ramped up. I remember walking to the car park and thinking like, oh, that's a real contraction. That's not just Braxton Hicks. So yeah, we got back here, and probably one of the worst bits actually was being back here, because I was having contractions every 2.5 minutes that were lasting a minute and a half. And as you might know, they tell you to go to hospital when your contractions are between 3 and 4 minutes, lasting a minute for an hour. And I had contractions like that for 5 hours at home. I was arguing with Paul because he really wanted me to go in, and I said I didn't want to go in because the last thing that I wanted was to go in and for them to say no. I'd been 1 centimetre dilated since like the Wednesday before. So I just didn't feel like I was, but I was in absolute agony. I was in the bath, out the bath, on the floor, on the bed. Paul was rubbing my back. I was in the baby's room. I called my mum at one point and was just absolutely desperate and was like, I can't do this. Like, if this is early labour, like later labour, ain't happening. So yeah, so we ended up, Paul called and they said come in because they were so close together. And when I got there, she examined me and I was 1 centimetre. And she basically said, you're not even really in labour yet, go home. That actually happened twice. So we went twice, we drove to the hospital, it's about a 20-minute drive. We drove twice there and I was still 1 centimetre. I think I was 2 centimetres the next time. And they were like, no, can't do anything for you, can't give you any pain relief, go home. So on the second one, when we got in, it was 4 o'clock in the morning and I said to Paul, let's just go to McDonald's. And we don't eat McDonald's. I don't think we've ever eaten McDonald's the entire time we've been together, but we went for a McDonald's drive-through and we drove through and I ordered 6 chicken McNuggets, like breathing like this. And the teenager behind the till must have thought, oh my God, what's happening? So yeah, we went for McDonald's. I ate like 2 chips and half the milkshake because I was in so much pain. And then we went the final time, it just got way too much and Paul rang and said, look, I don't care that she's not ready, like you have to do something for her. I was in absolute agony and I was just desperate. I was so I was panicking, I think, and which made it so much worse. I was trying to do my hypnobirthing breathing, I was trying all the different things, but it takes such concentration to get through the pain, and when you're that early on you're just thinking, how much longer is this going to last? And by this stage I'd kind of been in labour for like, well, my waters had broken 24 hours ago and I've been having pretty regular contractions, or like at least strong Braxtons for 24 hours. So I was tired, like, and I hadn't slept all night. I've been back and forth to the hospital. So I was dehydrated as well, all the things that you're not supposed to be in labour. So we went back in about 4:30 in the morning and they said, right, fine, we'll take you in begrudgingly and we'll induce you at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. So they took me in, examined me, I think I was 3 centimetres, and took me up to the ward. And they were really narky actually at that point. The nurse asked me the midwife asked me if I was allergic to anything, and I said that I didn't have a great reaction to cocodamol, which is true. I faint and I get dead floppy, I've always been like that. And she was like, well, is it an official diagnosis? And I was like, well, no, but I will faint, like, so... So she kind of was like, well, the only options available to you in terms of pain relief at this stage are diamorphine, codeine, cocodamol and paracetamol. I'd already taken 2 paracetamol, it had done nothing. She said codeine's kind of the same as cocodamol, so I wouldn't advise that. And they were all kind of like opiate based, so I don't know what we can do for you basically. And at that stage I really didn't understand why I couldn't have things like gas and air, or not an epidural at that stage, but certainly gas and air. Like, I didn't understand, I just hadn't realised that at that point you weren't able to do that. And I was really disappointed that I couldn't have the pool, because that was probably my next thing up my pain ladder. And she was like, no, that's the way it is basically. So I tried to stick it out because I really didn't want any of those things, because I was really worried they were going to send me sick. And I actually stuck it out until I was meant to go down at 8 o'clock in the morning. That obviously didn't happen. They put us in this little side room, and I managed till 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Actually, what probably set me off was that the fire alarm went off at one stage at about midday, and we were evacuated into the snow outside. So I was having contractions in the snow outside, and I think the panic and the, up until that point I was pretty concentrated and I was all right, but then the panic of that was just like too much, and I just said, right, diamorphine, like I'll have an injection. They gave me a diamorphine and it was wonderful. I'm not gonna lie to you, it was amazing. I was really anti-drug, specifically diamorphine, because of the effect it can have on the baby, but oh my god, it was like floating on a cloud, and it was just gave me a little bit of respite. I was actually able to sleep. You just feel like floaty and nice and wonderful, but not like in a way where you're not in control. So I ended up having actually 2 shots of diamorphine in the end, because I was there from 2 till 9. So within those hours I had 2 shots of diamorphine, which really helped, and that was probably my favourite drug of the labour experience, I would say. So Paul at this point was shattered because he'd not slept for 2 nights and needed a bit of respite and hadn't washed his clothes or brushed his teeth or anything like that, so he was just a bit desperate. So I rang my mum came and sat with me, and Paul went home for an hour typical, we'd been there all day waiting for induction, and then the second he went home, they came in and was like, oh, we'll take you down to labour and delivery. So he kind of rushed back and they took me for an induction. So when she examined me for induction, I think I was between 4 and 5 centimetres already. So they said, okay, we're gonna put the gel pessaries in, which I think is the serotonin? No, I'll find out. I think they were gonna put the stuff that's like progesterone. No, I'll find out. But the stuff that was kind of like pig semen, basically, that sets you off. They put the gel on your cervix. They were going to do that with me, and put the pessary in. But then they decided that they didn't need to do that because I was quite far gone. So they were going to help me up to the drip. And at that point, they asked me what kind of pain relief I wanted. And to be honest, but at that stage, I'd been in labour for 30 plus hours. I was absolutely knackered, and I just thought epidural. I just thought they told me that I would probably dilate for 0.5 centimetre an hour. That was pretty typical of induction. And in my head I was just thinking, adding all those hours up and thinking, that's at least 12 hours more labour. I can't do this. So I opted for an epidural, which wasn't the solution that I thought it was going to be. I've seen people have epidurals and then like be from like screaming in pain to sort of sat up drinking tea and thinking things are wonderful, and that just wasn't the way that it was for me. I don't know if it worked or if it didn't work or whatever, but anyway. So the midwife I had who sat with me through the 12 hours of induction, she didn't actually see him be born because she finished shift at 7 and he was born at 9. But the midwife was incredible. Like, the care that we received at Wythenshawe Hospital, NHS Hospital, was absolutely insanely good. She was amazing. I want to send her a present because I just couldn't have got through it without her. So at that stage, they gave me an epidural. A guy came in, gave me an epidural, which was actually fine. I know we've heard horror stories about epidurals, but at that stage you're just desperate. I had to lean forward while they gave me the injection. Paul said the needle was like that big, but to be honest I didn't really care at that point. Like, I'd been through so much pain, and it actually took 5 minutes. It didn't take long at all, and they give you local anaesthetic so you can't really feel it. So they put the epidural in my back. I then had a catheter because obviously you can't get up and walk to the toilet. I had a cannula in my hand. I had an epidural top up in my shoulder. I had a little monitor going to the baby's head to monitor his heartbeat, and something else. Anyway, constant monitoring on my tummy. So they give you the pink and blue strips with the heartbeat monitors, one for yours, one for his. I don't know why they had one for his because he had one on his head, but strapped around your middle. And you have to lie on your back. And what happened when I moved at all, so I literally laid like this on my back at like a sort of 45-degree angle for 14 hours. Because if I moved left or right or slouched or went to sleep or did anything, the baby's heart rate went from about 140, 150 beats per minute to about 60, and lots of people rushed into the room. So although the epidural was technically meant to numb everything, and it did to a certain extent, my back and my lower back, which I could certainly still feel, were in absolute agony, and I was just absolutely desperate by the end of it to have some relief or move position. I still think I'm suffering from the after effects of that, and I think I'll probably need some sort of physio to sort of rectify it because it was horrendous. So at one stage she allowed me to stand up, which I could do. That was probably about 10 hours in where I was just desperate. I was like, please let me move position. And I must have looked such a sight because I was wearing DVT socks and disposable pants with a massive pad in them, and a sports bra with my hair scraped up on top of my head, and I had my bag of wee from my cannula, which was just lovely, hooked up to all these other wires. And I just remember saying to Paul, do I look pretty? And he was like, yes, which I think was a lie. So we did that for until about 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, from 8, 9 at night, and eventually my body just got this feeling that I needed to push, and all you can feel all the way through labour is this incredible need to, like, this incredible pressure, basically, kind of the pressure that you get when you get really extreme wind or diarrhoea and you really need to go to the toilet. I told you this would be TMI. But you don't need to go to the toilet, and you also don't want to go to the toilet, and that's a big psychological factor because you're like, oh, I don't want to poo. So yeah, it's not great, just really uncomfortable. So I was still feeling contractions, and I was still having to really breathe through contractions. So I don't know if that means that the epidural didn't work, but certainly took the edge off things. But I don't know whether, again, I would do it, because the effect, I was still in a lot of pain, basically, because of the position that I had to stay in, because of the baby being in distress. So we stayed like that until about 7:30, 8 o'clock, and then my body felt the need to push, and she said, oh no, you can't push yet. We tell you to wait an hour before you push, so your baby's in the absolute optimum position. And at this point I was thinking, like, stuff you, I really want to push. So every time I would feel a contraction, I would kind of like let my body do it, like I wouldn't stop it, but kind of hypnobirthing style. I would sort of like breathe out, and sort of stealthily push, I suppose, which I don't know helped with the last bit. And then after an hour she said, right, you're ready to push now. And she actually let me turn on my left hand side to push, so I was kind of like up on my left hand side with my leg in a stirrup. Again, very nice image. And she said, okay, this is going to take 2 hours, because this is how long it takes with first babies. And I thought, no mate, I'm not doing this for 2 hours. It's not going to take me 2 hours. So I concentrated really hard, and I got really in the zone, and I just closed my eyes, and I kept asking Paul to give me a person we loved to think about before every push. So he would say, I'll do this for your nanny, or your grandpa, or my nan, or my granddad, or your mum, and I would just picture that person and really, really, really push. Again, pushing wasn't something that I wanted to do. I wanted to like breathe him out, but at that stage I was just like, get out. So it actually took about 5 contractions. I think I pushed for about 15-20 minutes in total, and I was just so determined, like I knew it was coming. And she was so shocked. She was running around about the place trying to put gloves on. She didn't have time to put gloves on. She was like amazed at how fast I pushed him out, because the rest of the labour had been so long. So I concentrated, and then she said, oh, his head's out, do you want to see his head? She said to Paul, and I was like, she's straight up here. And then I opened one eye, and he was like, so yeah, definitely looked. But I was just so zen, and I just was so calm, and knew that this was the right thing. And I just kept saying, my body can do this, my body can do this. And I kept doing my hypnobirthing breathing, and I was like, really calm. And then he was here. Just like that. Like, it was crazy. Like, they put him on my chest, and he pooed on my chest instantly. And he was just here, and I was just like, that is a baby. That's my baby. That's insane. Which was fabulous for about 5 minutes. What they then did, or what they had done by that stage, is they'd asked if they could give me the injection to deliver the placenta, which just sort of helps the placenta out, so you don't really have to push, basically. I had said no to this in my birth plan, because it meant that if I had a water birth, then I had to get out of the water, and I really didn't want to get out of the water in my plan. But obviously, as I was epiduraled up and on the bed, I just thought, well, yeah, all right. Why not, I suppose. I've had everything else. So I said yes to it, which was the worst decision of my entire labour, because I had a terrible reaction to it. So Finn was on my chest, we're waiting for the placenta to be delivered, and all of a sudden I just got this ridiculous headache. Like, I can't even describe it. I felt like I was going to die, and it was worse than whole labour put together. My head was like pumping, and it turned out our blood pressure had gone from about 80 to about 195, 200, and it was just skyrocketing to the point where they thought I had preeclampsia. And it was just horrendous, and I started being sick, and as I was being sick I was convulsing, and blood and water were coming out of me like in huge, like, wave-like quantities, to the point where Paul said it looked like a murder scene. So they had to take Finn off me, which I really didn't want. I wanted to have a golden hour with him, because I was literally like convulsing in bed, and give him to Paul. That meant that Paul had to dress him, had to call our parents, and I wasn't aware. He had to feed him, because I was like that for a couple of hours, and Paul honestly said that it was the most traumatic part of the birth. Like, he thought he was going to lose me at one point, because I just remember saying to the midwife, you have to do something. Like, I was literally like squirming around the bed. It was awful. I was like, please help me, please. And I was so sad, because I knew my baby was in the room, and I knew he was there, and I knew I was missing everything. And I wanted to breastfeed within the first hour, and he'd fed him formula by the time I woke up. So subsequently, were bottle feeding him, and that was really sad. What had also happened was that Paul had called my mum and dad in the meantime and said he's here. So Paul's mum and dad and my mum and dad had come down, and they were trying to get in the room, and I was just like, please don't let them in, because I was an absolute mess. So I was desperately trying to pull myself together, and she said to me, you need to shower and have a wee before I take all the wires out of you, basically. So I like dragged myself to the shower and like nearly passed out in the shower, and was determined to sort of get cleaned up so that our families could see us, and I was trying to feel better. But honestly, it was the scariest experience of my whole life. I genuinely thought I was going to die, and it was worse than all of the labour put together. All 56 hours of from when my water broke to when he arrived. It was genuinely the worst thing ever. After about a couple of hours, I felt much better, but I didn't feel right maybe for about 2 days. So yeah, that was a bit sad at the end. But he's here, and he's amazing, and I absolutely love being a mum, and it's just the greatest thing ever, and he's an absolute dream. I'm gonna do a 1 week postpartum video to talk about recovery, and do like an update on how my body is at the moment, which is actually alright. Spoiler. I feel alright. I didn't tear at all. I didn't have an episiotomy. I didn't have forceps. Didn't have pontoons, which I really didn't want. I had like 2 tiny grazes, which were fine, and I recovered from quite quickly. So yeah, that is my birth story. Not what I expected, not what I wanted. A bit traumatising, I'll be honest. And I think if I was pregnant again, I would probably need to resolve those issues before I gave birth, because I think I would be absolutely terrified of giving birth again, because it was really intense. The worst bits were definitely the bits where I was labouring at home, and the bits where I was in agony from the epidural. But he was totally worth it, and I can't believe he's here. So I'm going to go and get him, and hopefully he's awake, and introduce him to you. So this is Finn Arlo Angel, and he was born at 9:05 on the 7th of February 2018, which is actually my grandpa's birthday. Move him around so you can see. He's so cute, he's such a good boy. And he was £7 1 ounce, and he is amazing, and he's completely changed our whole life, and we love him so much. So I'm going to do my postpartum update with him, and loads more other stuff with him, but I just thought I'd give you a sneak peek. He's a big sleeper, he really likes to sleep. So yeah, thank you for watching. I hope this helped you if you are going into labour soon, or if you're due to have a baby. Please don't be scared, it will be fine. Lots of women have done it. All I would say is try to have a plan, but also try to be open-minded, and just go with the flow, because at the end of the day the most important thing is that your baby's here healthy, and you will do it, you can do it, and when you have done it you feel like on top of the world, and you have tea and toast, and it's amazing. So yeah, by all means, like, practice hypnobirthing, do all that stuff, because it really helps, and also it helps with your pregnancy as well. Practice it during pregnancy, but just know that it might not go to plan, and that's okay. The most important thing is that you get a little person like him. I've got a little person like him. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I will see you very soon.